Hello. So in this video, I want to talk about stories and characters. More specifically, I want to talk about not necessarily villains, but they're not exactly heroes either. So let's get into this. Now you're probably wondering, what exactly am I talking about? Well, I'm not talking about specifically anti-heroes. And I'm not talking about good villains or villains that turn good. What I mean is when you're given a story and the main character of that story is either committing a crime or is a criminal and they're going against their active or current government. The best example of this that I have are mafia movies and TV shows like The Godfather, Scarface, and The Sopranos are just a few. You can even tack Breaking Bad into that list. When the mafia in The Sopranos and The Godfather are committing their criminal acts, you're not rooting for the DEA or FBI to come in and bust these guys. I know when Tony was on the verge of being caught several times, you want to see him slip through. You want to see him get away with it. When Walter, at least in the beginning, spoiler alert, by the way, but when Walter is doing what he's doing, you want Walter to succeed. You want him to get away with it. Now, maybe by the very end, your position might change. But ultimately, throughout most of the show of Breaking Bad, you are rooting for Walter to commit crimes, to cook drugs that are going to end up in the hands of other people. Now, you can say, yeah, well, if he didn't do it, somebody else would. But then we would just be following a different character. Or some people would make the claim that, oh, well, he does it right. You know, there are, like they've actually pointed out in the show, there are people who make these drugs and put all kinds of weird stuff in it that is not even a pure, or that his stuff is the best because it's so pure. And it's like, well, eventually somebody would have gotten there. In the case of certain characters, you have characters like Dexter, who is a serial killer. Yeah, true, he murders guilty people who have committed crimes, and he, for the most part, he makes sure that the people he's going to murder are actually guilty of a crime. There's times where he had to break that rule or change that rule or just flat out ignore it so he wouldn't get caught. And of course, one of the biggest things that brought this to my attention are characters, for example, like I was talking with a friend and we were having a conversation about One Piece after I released my recent video, and I was saying, technically all pirates are villains because they are criminals, and you can chalk, Luffy and the crew, yeah, they go around and they do good things. But my friend was like, well, that makes them the anti-hero. I'm like, not really, because the anti-hero, they do things in their own self-interest. Luffy, I mean, yeah, that totally fits Jack Sparrow to a T. But Luffy is not like Jack Sparrow pretty much at all. He sees somebody being hurt, and he rushes in to save him without giving a second thought if, he could win the fight, B, if he should interfere. To fans of One Piece, that, he couldn't just stand by and watch innocent people be hurt. But he's a criminal, and yet he decided to make a public statement. Me and my friend also had a recent dispute because he was talking to me about the bounties on One Piece, saying, well, basically, I was the one who said that, with everything I've watched, because I've watched, like I said in my previous video, I watched up to Dressrosa so far, waiting for the dub. And I told my friend, honestly, at the point I'm at in the show, Luffy should have the highest bounty going in the world. No other pirate should be higher than him. And he said, why? I said, well, because of everything he's done. I asked him, since episode 1 to this episode in Dressrosa, how many years has gone by? He's like, well, for the first part, it was 1, and then they skip ahead 2 years, so about 3. Maybe close to 4. I'm like, yeah. In 4 years, or mainly most of it, the crimes that he committed was in the first year. But in the first year, he took down Marine Board, Water 7, Impel Down, several government ships, bases. I mean, he has done a lot more damage to the world government than probably any other pirate out there. They should want Luffy's head more than anything else. So his bounty should be freaking ridiculous. Because I'll tell you one thing. If there was a killer on the loose that had a bigger body count than the top 2 serial killers ever known, and that person did it in half the time, I guarantee the FBI and every other law enforcement agency would be offering the biggest reward, would be looking for this dude. They might be going house to house searching, trying to find him. Because that person is a major threat. Yeah, Luffy has done things as a hero, but from the eyes of the world government, he is not the hero. And that's another thing that it brings me back to this point. Recently, in modern years, there's been a lot of talk about how the Empire was actually good. The Empire provided security. They provided jobs. They provided safety. So much more happened with the Empire ruling the galaxy than we ever really get to hear about. Yes, were there bad people in the Empire? Yes, there were. I'm not going to say there's not. Most governments and agencies have some kind of bad people in them. Have the wrong people in the wrong places. But that doesn't mean that the rebels were not terrorists. Not everyone on the Death Star was a bad person, probably. Like the janitors and the cooks and the, lowest level people. They didn't evacuate the Death Star. They didn't do anything to try to save anyone. And some of those people, they were just probably there because it was their only option. And they needed to support a family. And then the rebels come along and blow up the Death Star. Well, now you just killed the breadwinner of that family. And I'm not saying that the Empire was all good. Yes, Palpatine and Vader were probably the worst, and probably most of the Moffs were pretty bad too. I don't know if all of them were. We don't learn about all of them. We just see that select few. But, they're government people doing their jobs. Another example I have is Final Fantasy VII. I was watching a review of the Final Fantasy VII remake by Angry Joe, and he actually was one of the first people I have ever noticed, and my friend kind of confirmed that it's kind of true, that, yeah, the group, your main character, I believe his name is Cloud. I'm not a huge Final Fantasy VII fan, but Cloud is working with this group called Avalanche, and they want to destroy this power plant to fight their government. And it's like, if you blow up this power plant and you fight your government, you're essentially ruining it for other people. What about the places that need that power? Hospitals with people on life support. Keeping food fresh and available to other people that are hungry. If there are ways to attack in different ways. Probably, and I'm not saying that any of this is bad. I'm not saying, oh, you shouldn't like these people. I'm curious as to why we like these people. Why do we enjoy stories where we basically are following a villain? Even most superhero stories, the superheroes are technically villains themselves because they are taking the law into their own hand. They are getting away with, misdemeanor crimes, petty crimes, but they are still getting away with crimes that they're not being held accountable for. And it's all in how you look at it, like that line from Incredibles.
Mr. Sansweet didn't ask to be saved. Mr. Sansweet didn't want to be saved. And the injury received from Mr. Incredible's actions, so-called, causes him daily pain.
Hey, I saved your life!
You didn't save my life, you ruined my death. That's what the...
Listen,
my client has no
further comment at this time.
It's moments like that, Incredibles is kind of a good way to point it out. But at the same time, you have to wonder, why do we enjoy these stories? What is it about these stories that draws us in? The only superhero really that actually doesn't quite make this bill, that actually was a 100% genuine superhero, at least in the beginning, was Captain America. Why him? Well, because he was given his powers from the government. He was trained by the government. He was an extension of the government, of the U.S. government that made him. They sanctioned him. Technically, yes, they are still villains. But the Suicide Squad, they're technically even doing right in their movie, because they were criminals who are given a chance to earn a way to freedom by doing what the government tells them to do. But Superman, Batman, Iron Man, they are heroes who do heroic things, but they break the law to do it. Like Robin Hood. Robin Hood's another one. No, Robin Hood himself is not a bad person, and he did not want to bring the whole government down. He just wanted to stop Prince John and the Sheriff of Nottingham, who were abusing the throne in the absence of the king, taking all the money from the people, and they wanted to stop that until the king returned. And that's all he wanted. He just wanted those two gone. He wanted to give the people back what was being stolen from them. But at the same time, he is still committing a crime in their land, under their laws. And that's why I'm asking the question, why do we like these stories so much? Why are there so many of these kinds of stories? And the best guess and the best consensus that I can think of and that I've heard is mainly that, most people say, oh, because those stories are badass. I think, and after I've asked and explained this to a few people, they've basically come to the same conclusion I did. We, as an audience, like to live vicariously through these people committing these actions, through the way they break the law in a socially acceptable way with perfectly valid reasons. We can live vicariously through those characters, since we can't all actually go around and break the law ourselves. We get away with it through playing it in games or watching someone do it in a movie or a TV show. So that's my thoughts. And if you're thinking something else or you have a different thought, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. I ask you, why do you enjoy these kinds of stories? What makes you such a fan of this story where the good people are technically bad, but the way that their life and their story is framed makes them out to be the heroes of that story? So if you have a different thought, if you have a different reason, I'd love to hear about it. Put it in the comments below. Also, before I go, I've got two quick things to say. Number one, I am now live streaming on Twitch and YouTube. I'm probably going to start live streaming on Twitch every Wednesday and on YouTube every Friday. I may switch those up in the future, depending on which one does better, which one more people like watching. I'm kind of just testing the ropes with Twitch right now. But there will be a link to my Twitch site, and there will be a link to my personal YouTube channel where you can watch me live stream games. I also have a video on that channel, on my personal channel, where I show off my games, and I say which ones I've played, which ones I haven't, which ones I've beaten, which ones I haven't. So, if there's a particular game you see that you want me to tackle, feel free to comment on that video or any other video, letting me know which game you'd like me to try. Also, on September 23rd, I will be doing a live stream for my birthday. I might do 2 or 3. I haven't really decided. I might make that day nothing but live streaming. So, if you want to stop by, say hi, and happy birthday, you can. If you have read my books and you have questions, you can ask me about my books. I'd love to talk. That would be the best birthday gift, getting to talk with people about my books. That would be awesome. I would love that so much. So I want to thank you all for watching. If you have not yet, please subscribe to this channel. I put out a new video every Monday. When you subscribe, please make sure to click that notification bell so you're notified the second a new video goes up. I want to thank you all for watching, and I will talk to you next time.
What's it about? Pablo Escobar, this big drug guy in the 80s.
Yeah, I remember seeing him on the news.
Well, it's more about the guys who investigated him and tried to bring him down. Some of them were DEA, you know. Uncle Hank said that they were worth learning about. That everybody knows who Pablo Escobar is, but nobody knows about the guys that brought him down.
I guess I never thought about it.